By that time, the cat turns, tries to get back out. That scream won't go that way. Cat starts going, meow, all crazy. And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, what's going on? I said, there's a cat in the house. Cat in the house? I said, yeah, there's a cat in the house. So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. Meow, meow, the cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here. Looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to the Week 3 preview edition of my college football podcast. As you can see at the top of the screen, I'm actually doing this during... I think it's like 10 o'clock right now during week 2 Saturday. So there's still some games going on. Battle at Bristol's still going on. Few games actually still haven't even started yet. So yeah, just full disclosure, not all the games have happened yet, have completed yet. But I'm going out of town this week, so I needed to do this preview show before I leave. I won't be able to record during the week, because I'll be out of town with no computer, laptop, or anything like that. So, even if somebody unexpectedly gets upset or something like that, this shouldn't really change this preview show too much. Normally, I have ideas in the future for how this preview show will be different when the season is a little bit more established. And when I have more time to sort of dive into things. I'm sort of rushed right now because I'm trying to get as many videos recorded and scheduled, rendered, uploaded, and scheduled, for you guys as possible. Plus, I need to pack for my trip and stuff like that. So I think what I'm going to do is just go through the schedule for week 3, talk about what matchups intrigue me, make a few picks. So I guess let's get into it. First, kicking off week 3 on Thursday is Houston, who is number 6 in the AP poll as of week 2, the week 2 AP poll. They're going to Cincinnati, 7:30 p.m. start on ESPN. This, to me, this screams trap game, which I think I'm going to end up saying that a few times. I looked through these matchups this week. I think I'm going to be saying that a few times for a few teams. So I think Houston takes care of business here. I know Cincinnati sort of struggled with Tennessee Martin in week 1. They did beat Purdue pretty handedly in week 2. But, and they are at home. But I just think with all the talent at Houston, I know Greg Ward didn't play in week 2 because of his shoulder issue. But I think it was more of a, just being held out just because they didn't really need him and, it wouldn't hurt anything rather than an actual issue with his shoulder. So as long as he plays against Cincinnati, I think Houston should take care of business. Other than that, that's the only matchup really before Saturday that intrigues me. These other games should be, I'm sure Baylor will beat Rice. Arizona State will beat Texas San Antonio, etc. Starting with the Saturday matchups, I think I'm actually going to the Ohio at Tennessee game. I'm actually going to that game, so that should be pretty fun. I know Ohio did beat Kansas pretty handedly, as you guys can see at the top of the screen. That's where I went to school, my alma mater. We beat Kansas by 16 points. So, proud of the guys. We did lose in week 1 to a pretty bad team, a team we were favored to beat by like 18 points, I think. So that's kind of unfortunate. In theory, I could see us beating Tennessee. Like, there's some sort of like universe where we could potentially beat Tennessee, but I would only give us like a 1 or 2% chance. I really don't think it's going to happen. Probably going to get smashed. Other than that, for the noon games, the big noon game is number 3 Florida State at number 13 Louisville at noon on ABC. That's the big, nationally televised game. The marquee game for the noon slot on Saturday. I think DeAndre Francois has had 2 good weeks. I thought his game against their first game against Ole Miss in week 1, he looked kind of bad in the first half, and then he ended up turning it around, throwing for over 400 yards and I think 3 touchdowns, or 3 or 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So he looked pretty good in the second half. But like I said, in the first half, he just didn't look that great. He was underthrowing receivers, throwing, just overthrowing, underthrowing. Just it wasn't that great. Louisville, Lamar Jackson has been killing it in the first 2 games against Charlotte and against Syracuse. I believe he has 13 total touchdowns accounted for in 2 games. And in the first game, he only played like 2 quarters. So it's really 6 quarters. I don't even know if he played in the fourth quarter against Syracuse. So it might just be 5 quarters, which would be insane. 13 touchdowns accounted for in 5 quarters. That's just nutty. So this game, to me, I'm not really sure what the line is. Um, I guess I can take a look at that after I finish going through the list. I can actually go through the bigger ones and look at the lines and stuff. But I have Florida State as one of my playoff favorites. Even though they're number 3 in the AP poll, they're my number 2 team. And, I have them going to the playoff. In my opinion, I think they're better than Clemson, especially with what Clemson showed in week 2, where they kind of struggled with Troy. Only beat Troy by, I think, 6 points. So I think right now Florida State is the better team, but at the same time, Louisville has Lamar Jackson. I think he's a dark horse Heisman contender, making plays left and right all over the field. And it is at Louisville, and it is a noon start, which noon starts are weird sometimes. So I think I'm going to take Florida State, but depending on the line, I'm going to look at the line. I'm definitely going to take Florida State to win, but Louisville, depending on the line, Louisville might cover. So I'll have to look at the line in a bit. Other than that, we also have on ESPN, we have at noon, we have the North Dakota State at Iowa, which normally, obviously North Dakota State is an FCS school, but I think they're the 4 or 5 time defending FCS champions. And they're going to Iowa, which it would be a lot cooler if Iowa was going to North Dakota State. That'd be awesome. But North Dakota State going to Iowa, I don't really know why Power 5 FBS schools in general, but especially Power 5 schools, why they continue to schedule North Dakota State. Because North Dakota State has, beaten them in recent years. So I expect Iowa to win this, but it could be a closer game. I'll look at the line for that one as well. Could be a closer game than some people anticipate. Miami, number 25, Miami at App State. On paper, you say Miami wins this, but App State sort of gave Tennessee fits, as we saw in week 1. They definitely should have won that game. We'll see if they can get it done. Miami going to App State, which is kind of surprising, but kind of cool. So that should be an exciting game for all the App State fans. See if they can win that game. The App State front 7's pretty legit. As long as they have, they have the conditioning this time around and they don't cramp up as bad. See if they can pull it out against Miami. Let's see. Other than that, nothing really screams to me at the rest of the noon games. Getting into the 3:30 games, we have Oregon at Nebraska. I'm actually going to take Nebraska here. I don't have Oregon in my top 25. I think that they are, I don't know. I mean, they're only number 24, so you can't really say that they're overrated, but like I said, I don't have them in my top 25. I'm thinking about, putting Nebraska in. Nebraska's not in my top 25 either, but they've crushed a couple teams. Now I know that they were, Group 5 teams, Wyoming and Fresno State, but I think, they beat each one by, I think, like 40 points. And yeah, you can say they're just, Mountain West teams or whatever, but if you look at the past couple years, Nebraska has sort of struggled at times with Group 5 teams. So for them to get back to crushing, these Mountain West teams like other Power 5 teams should be. I think Nebraska might be turning the corner with Tommy Armstrong in his senior year, getting back to sort of a 20 to 25 type status. So I think Nebraska takes it. I'm gonna look at the line for that game as well. We'll see. Now the big game. Alabama, #1 at 19 Ole Miss. Now, as I said in my last video, I have Ole Miss a lot higher. I have Ole Miss at, I believe, 10th in my poll, at least after week 1. I am not going to get a chance to do a poll for week 2 because I'm going out of town and I can't really do a week 2 recap podcast, but I'll cover week 2. I know there's a couple crazy endings today, plus there's some games that haven't even happened yet as of this recording. I'll cover week 2 in my next video, which will be my week 3. I guess it'll be a week 2/week 3 recap. All right. Anyway, Alabama at Ole Miss, 3:30 in Oxford. I believe, if I had to guess, I don't know. I think that Alabama's defense is pretty legit this year. I also think Ole Miss's offense is pretty legit this year if they can run the ball. I know they were playing well defensively against Florida State in their opener until I think they had a couple injuries, game-ending injuries for I think one of their starting safeties and someone else on defense, and then they started struggling a little bit, especially in pass defense. But Alabama has that true freshman quarterback. This will be the first true crazy environment going into Oxford. It's always pretty crazy. I know Ole Miss, I believe, they beat Alabama the past 2 years in a row. So we'll see if they can make it a three-peat. And Alabama looked pretty scary against USC, and then in their performance this week or in week 2, they didn't really give me any reason to doubt them going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Alabama, but once again, I'm going to have to look at the line on this one and see if Ole Miss will cover. But just a straight-up pick, definitely Alabama's going to win this one. At the same time, this sort of streams trap game to me, just like a couple other games on this slate for week 3. Now, Pitt at Oklahoma State. I think Pitt looked really, really, really good at times. Oklahoma State kind of got robbed in week 2 with the whole intentional grounding, giving the untimed down when it really shouldn't have debacle that happened in their crazy finish against Central Michigan. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say Pittsburgh takes this, to be honest. I know I was kind of high on Oklahoma State, but watching Pittsburgh run the ball against Penn State, and they took care of business in week 1 as well. I think that they are going to be able to run the ball all over Oklahoma State, dominate time of possession, keep the ball away from Mason Rudolph, and yeah, I think Pittsburgh takes this against Oklahoma State. They're since they lost in week 2, they're not going to be ranked anymore. And Pittsburgh might be ranked, to be honest. So this might end up being, Pittsburgh being ranked and Oklahoma State unranked. So we'll see. But I think I'm going to take Pittsburgh in that one. We'll take a look at the line in a bit, but all right, moving on. Let's see. What else jumps out at me? We get into the SEC matchups, getting into prime time at 7 o'clock. We have number 20 Texas A&M at Auburn. This is a battle of 2 of the I would say top 5 defensive lines in college football. Another ranked team coming into Jordan-Hare. We'll see if they can pull it off. Texas A&M has had first-round draft picks at offensive line, I believe, 3 or 4 years in a row. A first-round draft pick on their offensive line. So their offensive line is always pretty good there at Texas A&M. As long as Trevor Knight can continue to provide, some nice quarterback play and consistent quarterback play, then we all know that all of the Texas A&M receivers, they're really deep at receiver. They're way better than the Auburn corners. No disrespect, but it'll all come down to line play, I think. And if Auburn has figured out their quarterback situation by week 3, which for some reason I'm just not confident, which I'm sure a lot of you listening are not as confident, are not confident at all either in Gus Malzahn figuring out what the hell he wants to do on offense. This could be an interesting game. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go Texas A&M on this one. We'll look at the line, but um, that could be a fun one to watch. If Auburn can score some points, that could end up being a fun game coming down to the wire. I don't think necessarily a shootout, but something like 31 to 27 in favor of Texas A&M or something like that could be a fun game. We have Michigan State, number 12 Michigan State at number 18 Notre Dame. This will be a fun game at Notre Dame. I believe the Notre Dame defense against Texas looked very young, very. I mean, they're good athletes, 4 and 5 star recruits, but they looked very young. It didn't look like they were just. I don't know. I mean, you don't want to say that they're not well coached, but just you gave up 50 points, over 50 points to a Texas team that historically has barely been able to score even 30 points against people, especially and these are Big 12 defenses that Texas has been playing. So it remains to be seen if it was a case of the Texas offense really turning up or if it's just the Notre Dame defense is really bad. But that being said, the Michigan State offense is really bad. So this could honestly be a low scoring sort of, you know, between the Michigan State offense and the Notre Dame defense, just a big pillow fight. And I guess the story, the big storyline of this game comes down to the Michigan State defense and if they can stop Deshaun Kaiser. Definitely not Malik Zaire. Please don't start him. Definitely Deshaun Kaiser should be your quarterback going forward. If you're listening, Brian Kelly, I doubt it, but just in case, definitely start Deshaun Kaiser. Now, I think that Deshaun Kaiser is a top quarterback in college football. I would probably say top 5 quarterback. Definitely a legit NFL prospect. He's tall, athletic enough. He's a throw first guy, but he's still athletic enough to run. Similar to JT Barrett, similar to Cam Newton. Other guys like that, similar to Jake Coker at Alabama last year when they won the national championship. I think that Notre Dame will pull this one out. Unfortunately for Michigan State and the Big Ten Conference, they're going to lose one of their higher ranked teams, and Notre Dame should climb back up in the rankings. Next game, big game. I'm an Ohio State fan, as you guys know. So we have number 4 Ohio State going into Norman, number 14 Oklahoma. Ohio State has looked pretty good week 1 and week 2. The defense, I don't believe the defense has given up a touchdown yet. The defense has only given up 6 points. And, the defense has only given up 6 points to, I don't care who you're playing, but that's pretty impressive. And, even if you are playing Group 5 schools in Tulsa and Bowling Green, the offense has clicked on all cylinders for the most part. They struggled in the first half against Tulsa, but I think that was more game plan. I thought the play calling was kind of bad and just wasn't, they were trying to run the ball too much and get really cute running the ball, jet sweeps, blah, blah, blah. I think against Bowling Green in week 1, Ohio State really aired it out more, especially early, and that opened up the whole entire playbook from there. So if they come into Oklahoma, if they can throw against Oklahoma, I think they'll be good. I think the key matchup to look at here is the Oklahoma defensive line versus the Ohio State offensive line. And if the Ohio State offensive line can hold up against, the pass rush and stuff like that, give JT Barrett time to throw, time for these long, deep shots to develop. And if they can create running lanes, So, and similar, I guess similar to for the Oklahoma offensive line. I mean, the Oklahoma offensive line didn't look that great in week 1 against Houston. So, um, the case for them as well, if they can get some push and, pass protect well against the Ohio State defensive line. If Oklahoma hands the ball off a lot to Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, I actually have them favored in this game. As much as I would love to say Ohio State will make the playoff, I still have Ohio State in the playoff, but I'm flat out just predicting a win by Oklahoma. Once again, I don't know what the line is. I'll have to look at the line to see if I predict Ohio State to cover, but I think flat out Oklahoma is going to win, unfortunately. I'm an Ohio State fan, so you know how that goes. Next, we have Duke at Northwestern. I believe this is a rematch of, I think they played last year. If I do believe, Northwestern has looked god awful, probably the worst in the Big Ten, even lower than Purdue, which is really sad for Northwestern. Lower than Purdue and lower than Rutgers. Um, Duke lost to Wake Forest in week 2, so they haven't looked the best either. But at Northwestern, you've lost to a MAC team and you've lost to an FCS team, so just definitely not looking good. I expect Duke to take that game. USC at Stanford, that could be interesting for the Pac-12 race going forward. It's at Stanford. Now USC obviously got curb stomped by Alabama. Pretty much publicly executed, but they came out in week 2, performed pretty well, scored over 40 points. I mean, I know it's inferior competition, but it's still nice to get some points on the board with your offense. Now, I still don't know how I feel about this Stanford team, offense and defense. I know that they do have Christian McCaffrey, but you still just you don't really know with the Pac-12. Doesn't really matter who the favorite is. The patented Pac-12 after dark, where crazy things happen in the Pac-12 after dark. So we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and take Stanford, but this is one of those trap games. I wouldn't be surprised if USC took this game. Um, Honestly, I don't even know what the line is, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say USC. I expect USC to cover, and I think I'll just go ahead and say Texas at Cal. I expect Texas to win that, even though it is at Cal. Late start, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. I expect Texas to win that game. Other than that, there's not too many crazy. Yeah, so I guess unfortunately I'm not gonna be able to do lines because since week 2 isn't over yet. Um, ESPN hasn't updated the schedule to include all the lines and stuff like that. So just go with my straight up picks that I had. Uh, I expect a fun week. Week 3 is a big week. I will definitely come back for sure, 100%. I will come back with a week 2/week 3 recap episode of this podcast. Look for it next, probably Sunday afternoon to Monday morning of next week, right after week 3 is over. But thank you guys for all the support on this episode of the podcast and the first episode of the podcast. It's been great. Check out my other gaming videos if you guys are interested in any gaming content. Definitely be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any ideas for me, if you want to let me know that you think my opinion is wrong, if you want to state your case for your favorite team, whatever, however it may be, just feel free to comment, subscribe definitely, so that you see all the new episodes of the podcast as they come out weekly or twice a week going forward. Thank you guys, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.